Disclaimer: the following video can contain spoilers. A stuntman's career is seemingly over when he gets in an accident. But after receiving a call from his producer that his lover, now turned director, specifically requested him, he jumps back on the horse to become her stuntman, only to find himself in the center of a shady situation when Tom Ryder, Aaron Taylor Johnson, seemingly goes missing. Okay. Before I begin, I have to backtrack on what I've stated in some of my previous reviews in regards to movies turning into a spectacle for Act 3. How I'd much prefer a simpler story or not much of a spectacle for Act 3. Look, this movie does create a big spectacle as the story progresses, but I didn't see a lot of issue in it. Perhaps it is because I somewhat knew it was going there because of the trailers? Or maybe it was because I was so captivated with all this jargon and logistics when it comes to filmmaking? I don't know. However, I still stand on what I've said, but I feel I need to make some corrections to that statement. In the end, it depends on the story, something I have said over and over again. Anyway, in various movies, they use spectacle to elevate the story, whereas in The Fall Guy, the spectacle was the story. Get it? I understand that perhaps I've said I wasn't a fan of how the spectacle element was delivered and prefer a simpler story to some movies that do fall under this category. So, let me know in the comments below if some of the movies I've reviewed fall under this. We can even discuss it further if you'd like. I'd love to know both your thoughts and perhaps even change my perspective on those movies if you thought differently. Because hey, that's the fun thing about reviews, right? Anyway, let's continue. The Fall Guy was written by Drew Pearce and directed by David Leitch. While Drew has no affiliations with stunts, to my knowledge, David started off his career as a stunt performer or a stunt double. And this movie is a love letter, so to speak, to that job, where it brings this dangerous job onto the foreground for those who may not know of its existence. In the end, whether or not you knew about the job, it's a very comedic and over-the-top movie that still shines in its own way, in my opinion. Apart from its comedic value to it, there's something in various scenes you can appreciate in the movie. Going into the movie, I knew about what stunts do and the lengths they go through to help amplify an actor's presence in a movie. However, I still saw myself appreciate that skill or job even more after watching the movie. And getting that emotion through this over-the-top movie meant that it worked in what it sought out to do. From the opening, I began loving the movie. From my personal bias from these fun and clever ways of title cards relating to aspects within filmmaking, the movie has a montage of various clips of other movies of stunt performers working on the job, while Colt Seavers, Ryan Gosling, narrates to us exposition. We end the opening with an understanding of the world, these characters, and most of all, the direction the movie is headed. I get my bias might get in the way with this review because it deals with my dream job of filmmaking. But various aspects within the opening I just love. The title opening cards and texts, the long take, some tiny details that come back into play later on in the movie.
Oh, it was the first show I ever did. I had to jump a boat through a ring of fire. I got so good I could do it with my hands tied behind my back.
Aka callbacks, and seeing the behind the scenes of filmmaking, hidden through the making of a movie. Point is, I'm liking the movie so far. When Colt goes back on set to be a stuntman, we do get a lot of exposition. However, I felt that it was delivered in a very suitable and enjoyable way. There was comedic value to it, and taking in these expositional scenes felt like the story was flowing steadily and not the movie giving us exposition for the sake of having the audience understand what is needed to move forward, which is great. When we begin our over-the-top part of the movie, with Gail informing Colt to go look for Tom Ryder, I was still finding myself enjoying the movie, even with times of exposition and character development. Maybe it was Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's performance and chemistry that sold it for me.
So if you're gonna stay here, we need to keep it like super profesh.
Professional's my middle name.
Mm-hmm. I thought your middle name was Danger.
What's the stage name?
Maybe. We raise the stakes when Colt sees what's on the phone and him becoming an innocent fugitive with his face and name plastered all over this news broadcast. This being the midpoint of the movie, I love the indication of the bad guys close in beat in this scene. Truly made me laugh. These tiny details are found throughout the movie, and because it has to deal with my dream job, you can see where I get my bias. I love these tiny details, but I enjoyed them even more because it relates to my dream job of filmmaking.
If this was The Fugitive and you were Harrison Ford, the bad guys would be closing in.
Before we begin Act 3, I did enjoy the scene with Colt on the speedboat. With the callback of his stunts from earlier, this scene does check some boxes in my book, from emotion, enjoyment, and story. I will also say that that song got stuck on my head for a couple of days. For Act 3, and I can't stress this enough because I saw a bunch of filmmaking behind the scenes and whatnot, I enjoyed it to the end. Yeah, I know. It's okay, you can say it. I won't blame you. Though I do have to explain myself with further detail from now on. Anyways, I do like subtle nods to stunt work throughout this movie. The setup payoffs, the callbacks, the comedic parts to it, especially when it involves both storytelling and filmmaking aspects like the split screen scene, and especially the over-the-top chaotic mess Colt gets into. Again, I understand how it might make me look, given what I've said on my previous reviews. However, I do feel this movie does a good job when it comes to this aspect because it does have some weight to this spectacle. And this spectacle was delivered well. Overall, The Fall Guy is a very fun and entertaining movie that I really appreciated. Not only was it sort of a love letter for stunts created by someone who was a stuntman, the level of comedy and charm the movie had amused me. From its witty interactions to the forms of storytelling tying in with film terms, I enjoyed the movie. Again, because it's a movie that shows the life of filmmaking, I am heavily biased when it comes to me enjoying this movie. Though, bias aside, I still enjoyed the movie. I'd love to hear your opinion on this movie. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. Did you enjoy the movie? Let me know what you thought about it down below, and I'll see you in the next review. Until then, God bless.